Welcome to Beyond the Call, where history, leadership, and heroism come alive. Today's story explores Private First Class Melvin Earl Biddle between Soy and Hotton in 1944, a powerful account of courage and responsibility in combat. If you enjoy learning more about military history and extraordinary individuals, you can find more articles, podcasts, and resources at trackpads.com. Before we continue, I want to mention the Medal of Honor book series that accompanies this work. These books tell the stories of America's Medal of Honor recipients in a serious, readable, and historically grounded format, with each volume focused on a specific campaign, battle, or part of the war. They are available in color paperback, Kindle ebook, and matching audiobook editions. You can find them at militaryauthor.me. In the deep winter of the Ardennes, the forest between the Belgian villages of Soy and Hotton lay under snow and tension. German forces were driving hard during the Battle of the Bulge, seeking to break through Allied lines and push toward vital roads and river crossings. Into this confusion marched a battalion of the United States Army, ordered to attack through the woods and loosen the enemy's grip on Hotton. At the very front of one company moved Private First Class Melvin Earl Biddle, a compact figure in a heavy coat, eyes searching the tree line ahead. The cold cut straight through him. As the lead scout, Biddle's job was to find danger before it found everyone else. Moving ahead of his platoon, he tested each step in the snow, reading the ground for tracks and disturbed branches, listening for the distant crack of a rifle. When enemy fire finally erupted, bullets slashed through branches and punched into tree trunks around him. He could have dropped back toward the relative safety of the main line, letting others feel their way forward. Instead, he studied the pattern of shots and edged closer to the flashes, deciding that his best chance to save the men behind him was to get nearer to the guns that were trying to kill him. Beyond the Call is the Monday feature of Dispatch, U.S. military history magazine. Years earlier, Biddle's world had been much smaller and quieter. He grew up in Daleville, Indiana, during the hard years of the Great Depression, when every family learned to stretch what little they had. His days revolved around school, chores, and the familiar sights of a small Midwestern town. There was nothing in his youth that announced he would one day be a Medal of Honor recipient. What he did learn, though, was to work without complaint, to keep his word, and to measure himself by whether he had done his share of the labor in front of him. Those habits mattered later. When the United States entered the Second World War, Biddle joined the Army and gravitated toward one of its most demanding new roles. Airborne forces, trained to parachute behind enemy lines and fight as light infantry, drew men who accepted extra risk for the chance to make a direct difference. Biddle endured jump training, learned to trust his parachute, and mastered the skills needed to navigate and survive on the ground after landing. He earned his place in the 517th Parachute Infantry Regiment, a unit known for toughness and initiative. In time, he became the lead scout for his squad, the man who would always be out front. By late December 1944, the regiment had been rushed into Belgium to help stem the German offensive. On December 23, Biddle's battalion was ordered to attack through the forest toward Hotton, where enemy pressure threatened to unravel the defenses. As the assault began, he moved out alone ahead of the company, slipping between trees while snow crunched softly under his boots. German snipers opened fire, their bullets shredding bark just above his head as he dropped to the ground. Instead of freezing or falling back, he moved methodically closer until he could identify their positions and bring his rifle to bear. One by one, he killed the hidden marksmen who were pinning down the troops behind him. Biddle did not stop once the first threat was neutralized. He pressed another several hundred yards deeper into the woods, leaving the main body of his unit far behind. There, he located an enemy machine gun that controlled an important approach route, its bursts of fire scouring the open spaces between trees. Crawling from cover to cover, he worked into a better angle and fired until both enemy gunners fell silent. The forest was still filled with danger, but the path for his company had widened. It was careful, patient work under fire. Soon he identified a better concealed machine gun position that defied ordinary tactics. This nest commanded ground that his comrades would have to cross, and its camouflage made it hard to attack from a distance. Biddle chose to crawl still closer through the snow, inching forward until he was within grenade range. He then hurled explosives into the position, killing 2 of the enemy and wounding a third, before finishing the fight with his rifle. Only after this did he signal his company forward, having personally torn open another hole in the enemy line. His actions turned a static defensive web into something frayed and vulnerable. As night fell, The fighting did not simply end at an agreed hour. Commanders needed to know where German units had repositioned, how many tanks were nearby, and which routes might be used for a renewed push. Biddle volunteered to go out again, this time alone on a night patrol into the same woods that had been lethal by day. For several hours he moved quietly between the lines, watching for the shapes and sounds of armored vehicles and counting enemy positions. The snow, darkness, and uncertainty made every step a calculated risk. His observations, brought back before dawn, allowed American infantry and tanks to plan a coordinated attack against the armor that threatened Hotton. On the morning of December 24, Biddle returned once more to his place at the front. As the battalion renewed its attack, a flanking element ran into yet another enemy machine gun that pinned it in place. Once again, he advanced alone over ground swept by fire, closing to within about 50 yards of the hostile gun. With deliberate aim, he killed the crew and silenced the weapon that had stopped his comrades cold. The remaining enemy soldiers, shaken by the sudden loss of their support, abandoned their positions and fled. In less than a day, his repeated solo actions had opened the way for a successful advance. The official Medal of Honor citation describes Biddle's conduct as conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity near Soy, Belgium on December 23 and 24. Those formal words encompass hour after hour of work by a single scout who kept returning to the most dangerous ground. When the citation notes that he advanced several hundred yards ahead of his battalion, it means he operated so far in front that immediate help could not reach him. When it mentions that he killed snipers at close range, it reflects moments when he maneuvered within yards of enemy riflemen who needed only one good shot to end his life. The language is dignified, but the reality was raw and cold. The citation also points to his encounters with multiple machine gun positions. A machine gun in forested terrain could dominate entire stretches of approach routes, cutting down attackers before they ever saw the weapon. Military doctrine normally called for several soldiers and supporting fire to engage such positions. Biddle, by contrast, moved alone, using grenades and careful marksmanship to destroy crews and disable their guns. When the citation records that he coolly shifted positions under fire and shot additional enemy soldiers, it captures his ability to stay calm and effective in a chaos that might have overwhelmed many others. That calm was as important as his raw bravery. Taken together, Biddle's actions had both immediate and wider effects. On the simplest level, every sniper and machine gun he eliminated reduced the number of Americans who would be hit in the next rush forward. His night patrol gave commanders the information they needed to place their own infantry and armor where they could do the most good and avoid the worst risks. By breaking the enemy line and disrupting their cohesion, he helped open the route to Hotton at a time when delays and setbacks could have prolonged the German offensive. Without his contributions, the battalion might have bled heavily for less gain. His courage helped shorten the fight on that stretch of the front. Biddle's story also speaks to the nature of leadership in combat. He did not hold high rank or formal command authority, yet he repeatedly did what most people associate with leaders. He saw what needed to be done, stepped forward before anyone could ask twice, and accepted the personal risk that came with those choices. His steady, disciplined courage under fire set an example to anyone watching, even when most of his work happened out of sight. In each decision to move forward, there was an underlying concern for the men whose lives depended on clearing the way. When the war ended, and he returned to Indiana, Biddle did not seek fame or special privilege. He went back to civilian life, building a future in the familiar surroundings of his home state. Those who knew him later often described a modest man who spoke more about the friends he had lost than about the medal he had received. The Medal of Honor marked him as extraordinary, but he carried it with the quiet bearing of someone who viewed his actions as simply doing his job. That humility completes the portrait begun in those snowy woods. Today, the forest between Soy and Hotton is peaceful, its trees no longer hiding guns or patrols. Yet the ground still holds the memory of the young paratrooper who crossed it again and again in a single brutal 20-hour span. For students of military history and leadership, Biddle's experience shows how one person's choices can shape the outcome of a small but vital piece of a larger campaign. For families, veterans, and citizens who pause at his grave or read his name on a memorial, his life is a reminder that extraordinary courage can arise from very ordinary places. His legacy endures in the story of a quiet man who kept walking toward danger so others could live.